I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd just like to take the roll call. All members are present with the exception of Tucker Garberg, our student rep. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? By Todd, second.
Second.
By Chad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That's 7-0. Next up is the consent agenda, and these items are routine in nature and will be enacted in one motion. For today's consent agenda, we have the check wire transfer disbursement summary, the bank reconciliation statement from January 2015, approval of the school board minutes from the regular board meeting on February 9th, and the board study session on February 23rd, resignations, terminations, non-renewals as listed. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
By Dan, second.
Second.
Second by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next up is the resolution for the acceptance of gifts. At this point, I always mess this one up. It's a roll call vote, but I would look for a motion to accept the gifts. Do I have a motion to accept the gifts?
So moved.
By Chad, second.
Second.
By Melissa. It's a roll call. Chad.
Aye.
Ben. Dan.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Aye. Rich.
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Next up is our Laker Pride, and today we have a couple recognitions. The first one being the Patron of Arts Lifetime Achievement Award, Dr. Gruber.
Okay. Should we go over here?
Yep.
I don't even have to ask if they're coming up. This is awesome. Tonight, we will be honoring and presenting a very special recognition award to a member of our community whose contributions, passion, and impact has had a great impact on all of us. Sue Heaton worked tirelessly within many organizations in our community and made a permanent impact. As you know, Sue passed away last year after a long battle with breast cancer. Over the years, she was a passionate advocate for the programs that supported our students and our broader community. To share more with you about Sue's impact, I'd like to introduce Nikki Strait, President of PAA, or Patrons of the Arts and Activities, the Booster Club for Arts and Non-Athletic Activities within our Prior Lake Savage Area Schools.
Thank you. There are several of us here today throughout the room representing the school district and also the patrons of the arts and activities. Together, we're honored to present this very important award to Sue's family, and we have Chuck and Parker Jornby here with us today to receive the award on her behalf. Several years ago, the PAA developed the Lifetime Achievement Award to honor members of our community and recognize them, the people who have gone above and beyond in their involvement with youth, demonstrating and sharing their passion for the arts and activities within our school district, and for making kind of a permanent impact on those programs. Sue's a perfect definition of this. In fact, we think she probably defined it. She definitely represents and embodied everything that this award stands for. She's one of the founding members of the Patrons of the Arts and Activities almost 10 years ago. She was one of the founding parents. Two of the former presidents of the PAA are with us today, Martha Hoover and Sean Ritchie, and they nominated Sue for this award, so I'd like to just read a couple of excerpts from that. So Sue worked tirelessly promoting the children in our community, encouraging them to reach for the stars and spread their wings. That was one of her quotes. She was involved in creating the Laker Variety Show and Savage Has Talent and getting it off the ground. She was also a part of improving and promoting Laker Idol, Optimist Oratorical Contests. She was involved in the PAA, the Laker Athletic Booster Club, Optimist Club, the Uplifters, which is a local breast cancer survivor group, and her church. She was also involved with Boy and Girl Scouts, Lakefront Music Fest, Middle School Band Boosters, Prior Lake Players, Laker Educational Foundation, and Race for the Cure. And so the word that was throughout this nomination was she tirelessly worked on behalf of all these organizations, and I think, we all feel that when we hear that list. She was one of the first members of PA and really believed in the value of the arts and activities and the impact on the students in our district. Her shoes are very large to fill, and every organization she was involved in feels that loss. And we're so thrilled to be able to present this Lifetime Achievement Award to her family and in her memory. So Eric's with us tonight, and he's going to share this with Chuck and Parker.
Yeah, I guess with another Thank you to everyone that was a part of that wonderful award on staff. Thank you to Chuck and Parker for being here to be a part of it as well. We have a second award tonight. One of our recipients is not able to be here. This is for the Secondary Science Teacher of the Year is Becky Stark. And we also had in our district the Elementary Science Teacher of the Year. So we have Sarah Akers here, but I'll read about Becky first. Come on up while I'm reading about Becky. Becky Stark continually searches for that new educational resource to promote and model a love of learning and science for her students. Becky's involvement with ANOA, a teacher at SEAT program in 2012, Reduced Gravity Education Flight Program in 2011, Space Camp participant in 2010, and her true devotion to science education led to our students having many unique experiences in the area of science. Last year, Becky facilitated a school-wide event where 933 students and staff were able to make a connection with the International Space Station using local amateur radio club. Becky had the privilege to share her experience at the 20th Annual Space Exploration Educators Conference in 2013. This year, Becky was invited to showcase her teaching talent at the Science Museum of Minnesota. So on behalf of Becky Stark, I'd like to have everyone give a round of applause. She's amazing. What I didn't say is Becky is a science teacher at Hidden Oaks Middle School. So congratulations to her and to her colleagues. Our second recipient is up here. This is Sarah Aker. Sarah is a fifth grade teacher at Red Tail Ridge Elementary. And Sarah is an extraordinary teacher who ignites the passion for science and others. She has led the charge for our students and staff at Red Tail Ridge to excel in E-STEM efforts in teaching. Science is an integral part of both her professional and personal life. She is involved in many science-related district and building committees. At the district level, she is part of our Science Curriculum Committee, E-STEM Committee, Curriculum Advisory Committee, and Curriculum Writing. At Red Tail Ridge, she is a Junior Naturalist Advisor, Wolf Ridge Lead Teacher, and a member of our E-STEM Committee. In the larger community, she is represented at the 2012 Environmental Education Conference, written a curriculum with E-STEM focus for St. Catherine's University EcoStars program, and also taught the following community education classes: Little Explorers, MacGyver Engineering class, Eco Camp, and Maple Syrup Tree Tapping Family class. It's our pleasure to honor Sarah Aker. Congratulations.
All right. At this point in the meeting, we have the open forum section, and it's a 15-minute period which is set aside to receive citizen input through the open forum segment of the board agenda. And if anyone has anything they want to address that's not on the agenda with the board this evening. Okay, seeing none, move on to personnel items. Matt.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Groover. First off, I would like to recommend the following candidates for employment, and I'm seeking board approval.
Okay, do I have a motion to pass the candidates for employment?
So moved.
By Dan, second.
I will second that motion.
By Rich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
And next, I present the following district retirements, and I do have a couple of notes here. First of all, we have John Bennett, who's been with the district for 28 years. Sue Kirchberg, third grade teacher at Westwood, who's been with the district for 31 years. Ray Knapp, physics teacher at the high school, who's been with the district for 11 years. Dorothy Nicholas, health and phy ed teacher at the high school, who's been with the district for 21 years. So there's a tremendous amount of service and dedication represented with those employees. I would like to make another note, and that is we'll be taking action next on leaves of absence, and Darla Beichel is included in that list. However, she is effectively retiring from the district, so although we won't be approving that right now, she has also been with the district for a very long time and has served well at the high school as a phy ed teacher. So just want to make that note as well, that she is effectively retiring this year. And I've gotten the chance to know all of the individuals on this list quite well, but I've certainly worked with John Bennett in a different capacity as a fellow administrator. And just a couple of notes there. He's a huge part of the culture of the district, our admin team in the high school. He's had a tremendous passion for students that I can remember from the first time he showed me around the high school, especially when he was bringing me through the Focus program. And he continued to share that passion as we opened Bridges ALC and for all students. And so just a note to say that he will be greatly missed, especially for that passion for working with kids.
Anyone have any comments?
I would just say that for our other teachers as well, Sue Kirchberg, Ray Knapp, Dorothy Nicholas, these are teachers that are beloved by their students and will be truly missed in their classroom, in their building, in their district. So for all of them, including John, and I echo everything Matt said, that we have just in these 5 names with Darla, 5 names have people that have really given their all here and have lived the dream of teaching in a district that they love and who loves them. So congratulations to each of them.
All right. And with that, do we have a motion to approve the district retirements?
So moved.
By Todd, second.
Second.
By Chad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
And next, I present the following leaves of absence, and I'm seeking board approval.
Do I have a motion to pass the leaves of absence? Moved. By Melissa, second.
Second.
By Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
And I do have an additional staffing request that I'm presenting as well. This is for 2 different positions here. We're looking, first of all, for 2 part-time student support paraprofessional positions at the high school to assist with testing. This is an ongoing duty that they'll be performing, and these are for students that would be on a 504 and require some accommodations with their testing. And then that would be the primary function that they'd be performing. And then secondly is a new position. This would be a consulting assessment specialist, and this is a service that we've already been accessing. However, we'd like to be able to hire a couple of folks to be our employees and to create that relationship with them. This is cost neutral, as this is a service that families pay for if they would like ancillary testing above and beyond what's offered in our schools.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the additional staffing request?
So moved.
By Dan, second.
Second.
By Todd. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. All right. Old business, seeing none. Moving on to new business, the community solar garden. Jim Dwello.
Good evening, Chair Ruel, School Board, Dr. Grover. I have in front of you a proposal that we had gone through with the last board work study for the district to go into an agreement with Sun Edison to work with them on solar gardens to get some of our power for the school district. It would be for the buildings currently served by Xcel. This proposal also has built-in up to 120% of the power that we are currently at now to help down the road incorporate growth. The highlights of the program are 11 cents a kilowatt hour now. Currently we're paying 13 cents, and that would be for 25 years. Some really big savings down the road. Power continues to go up, and we would be locked in at 11 cents a kilowatt hour. I also have with me Pete Cassell from Sun Edison and Margaret Bishop, also who works Bishop Engineering, tracks our utilities, if there's any specific questions from the school board.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? I know we had quite an extensive conversation already in the board study session. Just looking at the savings, I just wanted to kind of go over the savings a little bit. I know that's an average, correct, over the 25-year, of what they felt as.
Correct. It's hard to predict exactly where energy is going to go.
Right.
I think everybody would agree that it's going to go up.
Okay.
And the savings are based on historical increases.
Okay. And specifically, what buildings would this relate to?
This would be for every building except high school, Jeffers Pond, and Red Tail Ridge.
And the reasoning is because they're not.
Those are Minnesota Valley Electric
Okay.
Co-op, and we have used some rebating type programs there too. We have generators at those sites, so that kind of helps with our wholesale power costs there.
Okay. But this is specifically with Xcel's.
Xcel's
And so we have to,
territory.
right, okay. Okay.
And one other thing, again, if anything happens here, we can still purchase at 13 cents from Xcel.
Correct. We're
not on
still
the
with
hook for
Xcel.
anything.
That's not going away. And if for some reason Sun Edison goes away, then we're just back with Xcel,
Back where we were.
back where we were.
Okay. Yeah, go
I
ahead,
think
Rich.
it's a perfect match for what we try to do in our vision and our mission, using green energy to power our buildings. So,
Well, and there is a component, which we heard about in the study session, where it brings it down to the classroom level and they're able to watch and see this, basically see it at work and see the savings and
Yeah.
see it. So I think that component really ties into, what we do here at East M and that. So I'm excited to see it happen. So, all right. Any other questions? All right. I don't believe I have a motion. So do I have a motion to approve the community solar garden proposal?
I will make that motion.
Rich, second.
Second.
Second by Ben. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our Prior Lake High School Nutrition Program.
Good evening, Chair Ruel, board members, Dr. Groover. I'm Janine Peterson, Food and Nutrition Services Director, and this is...
Hello, I'm Emily Malone from the Prairie Lake High School.
So we just want to thank you for letting us be here again to present to you. Again, the presentation in regards to looking at taking our school lunch program, either staying on the program, the USDA program, or possibly look at going off the program. I'm assuming I just clicked this little button. There we go. I want to emphasize that the information we're providing is just strictly related to the high school, so we're not talking about any of our other schools right now. And there's been a lot of fact gathering that has gone on really all year, talking to students, and I think it was students that actually started to voice their concerns to have us even look at this option. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The USDA program, school lunch program, is a good program, and there's a need for it. Our other schools, all of our schools are partaking in it. It does provide us state and federal funding. With it comes some pretty strict guidelines, though, and our students at the high school are asking for more flexibility. And so that's really what we're listening to here, and I want to show you what that would look like to whether we stay on the program or go off the program. Before we looked at anything, we considered our guiding principles and doing what's best for our students and community. So we looked at things like being accountable, what would we do for partnering, being innovative, and how to engage parents, families, and our community. So keeping this in mind, we asked ourselves, well, what do we really want our program to look like? Whether we go on or go off the program, either way. And Emily's going to talk to you specifically about what that would look like at the high school.
So what we feel is that it should be a program that goes beyond giving kids lunch. We'd like it to contribute to our mission of educating all learners and to reach their full potential and be productive members of the ever-changing community. We'd like to give students a voice and a stake in their own program. We will continue to have the focus groups that we started at the beginning of the school year to gather student opinions and get their feedback and include them in the decision-making process. Janine will explain a little bit more about that in a minute. We're looking at the farm-to-school programs that teach children where our food comes from and how we can reduce our carbon footprint. We also, we're getting really excited about partnering with the science department and the FACS department to plant and tend a schoolyard garden right on campus. Our hope is that when students have a chance to dig in a garden and learn about nutrition and agriculture in the natural world, that they're more likely to eat these foods when they see them in the cafeteria, especially if they have harvested them themselves. Lastly, we'd like to get into the classrooms to provide nutrition education on what healthy eating really is. I think there's a lot of information out there, and students might not grab what healthy eating really is. So what is it going to look like in our servery? For one, we'll have kind of enhanced concept stations like we have now. We'd have one line that would be kind of a home-style cooking line and another line that would be more of an international cuisine. We'd have the grill area where they can build their own concepts, the deli where they can build their own cold sandwiches and wraps. We opened the deli last month, in fact. And then again, just in portion sizes that are more suited to our active students. We're also working on getting a salad bar in the high school, and we'd be doing that regardless whether we go on or off the program. But salad bars are much easier and less restricted if you're not on the USDA guidelines. And we're working to get one in by the end of the school year, possibly the beginning of next school year. And then kind of in our dream box is to maybe have a cafe or a coffee house type outlet that would be outside of our current serving area. It would give the students another place to enjoy our program where we can offer service before, during, and after school. With so many students in after-school activities, this would provide a way for them to grab a healthy snack or a sandwich on their way to their activities, rather than going off campus or getting something quick and fast food or calling, something in. The guidelines don't typically allow for most coffee house type beverages.
So as Emily said, we really are looking at still serving healthy food, but in portion sizes that meet the needs of our kids and have more flexibility. Part of our plan is to really connect with our community. And some ways that we plan on doing this is by using social media to reach out, help educate our students and parents on what they're getting for their meal, basically for the price of their meal. Teach them some, give them some nutritional guidelines, and just, again, help get their feedback as well. I live in this community. I have children who have gone to Prior Lake, and I have one in Prior Lake right now. So does Emily. And we both agree that there are misperceptions that we hear from our friends in our community of what our food service program really is. So we think that either way, we really need to reach out to our community to let them know some of the great things that we're already doing and that we have planned for the future as well. You had a great apple orchard story that you shared the last time. Do you just want to share it again?
Sure. I have an employee who is, she's been an employee, I think, for 8 or 9 years now, and she's got an apple orchard right here in Prior Lake. So this fall, they're more of a baking type apple. So this fall, we purchased her apples. I think it was about 14 cases of her apples, and then we made applesauce out of them so that we could use those for baking, and then also made apple crisp out of them. And I had a kind of a block. I didn't know exactly how to share that exciting news. You know, I was able to put signs up and let our students know, but I thought it was such a great opportunity to let our community know that we are buying things locally from, you know, not only a Prior Lake orchard, but somebody who is right here working in our cafeteria. So if I had if we had this established avenue where we could communicate with our community, I think it would have been more widely known. So.
Great. And we also plan on implementing an online program that will help our parents and students to just go online and see the nutritional value of their food, see what the food looks like, and also be able to give us their feedback. In order to more effectively gather input from our customers, we have hired a consulting company, Teamworks International, to help us. And on March 25th, they will be doing a focus group at our high school with both our staff and our students to, we've heard some, but we want to hear more from our students. And also opening up a parent survey March 30th to April 10th. And then around the week of April 13th, Teamworks will report back to us, and then we will report to you as a board on April 27th, the findings from those surveys. So now we come to financial considerations. Looked at several things. We had to take a look at our current revenue from federal and state. So as you can see there, it's $3.16.5 for any free and reduced lunch. And then we also get 46 cents reimbursement for any paid lunch. We also looked at our free and reduced rate currently, just at our high school. Right now it's at about 10.5%. We also took into consideration potential lost revenue with program guidelines. We looked both, what does it look like if we're on the program, what does it look like if we go off the program? And I'll be presenting that in just a second. And under USDA guidelines, there is a mandatory lunch price increase for 2015-16. It's 10 cents minimum, 20 cents maximum. Okay, so this is a quick look at what we're receiving now from state and federal. We have a total of 2,441 students currently. 256 of those students a day are receiving free and reduced meal benefits, and that is equal to about $810 a day, basically. We have 395 students that are eating school lunch. Now, this does not include a la carte. That'll be on a slide coming up. And that equals $181.70 per day. So a total of $991.70 per day in state and federal funding that we would not receive if we were not on the program. Said vice versa, that is what we do receive currently because we are on the program. It's a little confusing, so please ask questions if you have any. We also looked at potential daily revenue decreases from a la carte sales, and this is if we stay on the program. This is due to those smaller portion sizes and greater restrictions that come with federal guidelines. So currently we average about $5,488 a day in a la carte sales at our high school. We project that we're going to see a 30 to 40% decrease. So we're looking at going down to around $3,800 to $3,200 per day, just from implementing the guidelines. We feel this is pretty accurate. There was a survey done in Minnesota of all school districts, and this is about what they saw after the Smart Snacks guidelines were implemented. So basically, implementing the guidelines plus that mandatory price increase, we project that we would also lose 10% to 15% decrease in our participation of our regular lunch. And again, that's from being on the guidelines, seeing smaller portion sizes, greater restrictions, plus a mandatory price increase. You know, you're going to lose some kids, about 40 to 60 kids per day. You times that times $2.91, and you get $116 to $175 per day. So like I said, we will really lose money either way. The question is, which way is greater? So if we stay on the program, we have the potential to lose $17.62 to $23.70 per day. This includes a la carte and participation losses. If we go off the program, we'll definitely lose state and federal funding, and that equals $991.70 per day. So it is a loss either way. It's just which loss is greater financially.
Janine, can I ask you, on the potential loss revenue from going on the program, so we're losing more because more kids are bringing their own lunch? I mean, is that what's happening? Or?
Well, that's part of it. They don't see the value with the smaller portion sizes and other restrictions that are in place. They don't see the value anymore for their money, so they will bring their lunch. Less kids will eat. It's a trend a lot of schools are seeing.
Okay. I'm just wondering where it's going. That's, you know, like where they're eating, but what, you know?
Yeah.
They're not eating ours or the school's food, so what are they eating?
I would
or
assume.
Are they not eating?
You're right. I would assume they're bringing their
right.
their lunch.
Okay.
So some other factors, potential revenue increases to make up for losses, possibly an increased meal pricing. On 395 students, we'd have to evaluate how much would we need to increase our meal price to make up for that lost revenue. Probably do some strategic price increases in our a la carte area as well. Some added opportunities, like Emily mentioned, salad bar, display cooking, concept stations, coffee stations. These are some other ways we could make up the lost revenue from that federal funding that we would lose. And then some other potential risks that we see. Food costs, it's always on the rise, and it's expected to go up again. We do need to monitor that free and reduced status. We feel that anything above 12% would be cause to go off of this pilot program, and that's really what we're proposing is a pilot program. So we would need to consistently monitor these factors. And then a potential higher than forecasted decrease in participation due to increased prices. If we do increase our prices, will people just stop eating with us? You know, these are some unknowns that we just don't know that after we get into the pilot, if we get into the pilot, would be reasons for maybe going back on the program if these numbers are too high. So our options is to, of course, comply with the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act guidelines and Smart Snack guidelines, or not to comply, proposing a 2-year pilot to be off the program. And like I said, an increase in lunch prices and a la carte prices, something for the board to look at with us to make up for those losses that we're going to see. Continue to monitor those free and reduced rates, especially anything above 12%. Look at decreased participation rates beyond our forecasted numbers. And then overall student, parent, community acceptability. One of our plan is if we do go off the program, we would continue to survey our parents and students and staff to make sure that we are providing them what they want. So going from here, we will be presenting, like I said, our findings at the 27th, April 27th board meeting. And we will use those findings to help shape our program either way. Whether we go on or off the program, it's a good thing to survey our community. So that's kind of the next hurdle, I guess. So do you have any questions?
Go ahead, Ben.
So if we start the program, or start the year off of the program, and we decide that whatever factor the pilot program isn't working the way we want it to, whether it's the free and reduced percentage or the participation isn't where we expected it to be, can we opt back into the program mid-year, or do we have to wait for the following year to start?
Yes, you can opt back in. Yeah. It's a good question.
Other questions?
I just remember when it was first talked about the Healthy Kids program, is it still true that we can't serve, if we stay on the program, we cannot serve fruit juice, but we can serve diet soda?
No, you can actually serve fruit juice, but it's in a restricted serving size, should we say.
But diet soda is still okay?
Yes.
So it's not really all that much healthier? So, thank you.
There's a lot of loopholes. But. Any other questions?
Well, and I think we talked about in the next presentation when we have another discussion, we're going to kind of go more in depth on and have some history on what our free and reduce is at 8th grade and going up and how it's, just to kind of see those numbers, what the difference is. Because I do, the 12%, we're at 10.5, but, 12% is not that far off. So I think it's important that we kind of keep track of that and just look at a history of that in the last few years just to see where we're trending.
I can speak to that briefly. We did look at the last several years, and consistently the middle schools have been at I think it was 14%, consistently higher, and then once they get to high school, it drops. And I feel pretty confident that's, a consistent trend because that's what history shows. So
Okay, good.
don't see it as an issue right now.
Okay, good.
And do you see this program as a way to modify the options for our students from a healthy choice standpoint, where some of the options that are mandated by the federal regulations may not be in line with some of the healthier eating choices that we may have outside of the program? Or is this really more about the finances as it kind of boils down to the options that we have?
No, the finances are important, but it's really what our kids and parents and staff want out of their meal program. It doesn't mean that, it's a free-for-all as far as, candy bars and cookies. That's not what we envision for this program. We're pretty sure that's not what our kids and our parents are envisioning for their program. They're saying they want healthy food. It's just they don't have it right now in portion sizes that will sustain them throughout the day for their activities. Kids are really active in our high school, and they're saying they're just not getting enough.
You're asking tonight this is just an information
Correct.
presentation.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to get it out in front of the public a couple times. We kind of thought that was important because I think you're going to get a lot of feedback on this, and I think it's a good thing that we're heading down this road. So, okay, well,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you back in April.
Okay.
Okay, next up is the Prior Lake Aggregates and PLSA has letter of intent.
That's me.
That's you. Oh yeah, that's you.
Yes. For the last several months, we've been talking about this letter and been working toward it. We had a demographic study completed. We've had a demographic committee review. And the result of all of that is that we're continuing to grow. Our elementaries are growing, and our middle and high schools are also in the growth pattern. We see that growth first in Savage, and then later, maybe in the next 5 years or so, then it might move to Prior Lake. But at this point, we know that our elementaries, Glendale and Red Tail Ridge, are both nearing capacity. And so last spring or summer for this current year, Glendale and Red Tail Ridge are closed, as is our high school. We close our high school every year after a certain number of students are admitted. This year, I believe it was 30, and that's taken care of. So we know that our Savage side of our district is growing at a very fast rate. We've met with our city of Savage. We've met with our city of Prior Lake as well, and the board has met. We've had several conversations over the course of the last 9 months. At the same time, Lennar Construction has approached Prior Lake Aggregates owner Bill Pearson about purchasing some land to do some building of homes. Now, this has been long talked about, that it's going to happen, that the area that Bill owns is going to be developed, and then it sits a while longer. But at this point, I did talk to Bill on Friday afternoon, and he is certain that someone, if it's not Lennar, another group is going to buy this land and begin to develop it. So the timeliness of our involvement is that when a big construction company comes through, they start designing plats of what those, how those neighborhoods are going to lay out. If at some time we need an elementary, this site right to the west of SS9, our soccer fields and softball fields are up to the south of the high school at the stoplight. Just beyond that is the area that we would deem appropriate for an elementary school at some point. Well, the beauty of it is that we already own the property to the east of it. So it would be, you would come in at the high school at the stoplight. Instead of turning right, you would turn left. And then you would go beyond the fields to the elementary school. So we would gain more parking for our families and spectators for sports. We would gain the parking needed for an elementary at some point. We have said that we needed a certain space, so Lennar has graciously given us that space. 20.8 acres is set aside, and they're developing that new development around that proposed site. At this point, there is no money exchange, and it's a non-binding agreement. But it is an agreement that holds that property for us should we decide that we do need an elementary in the next 3 to 5 or 7 years. And if that's the case, then it would be ready to go. We have also been able to secure a very reasonable price for that land should we choose to buy it. So we feel that the people have looked at this, and we've looked at it over and over again, that this letter of agreement is as close as we can get at this point to being an appropriate action for our school board to take in thinking forward about what might happen and the need that we might have, particularly in our Savage community, for a new elementary school. So it's before you in its edition right here to approve tonight, should you choose.
Okay. Any questions? Rich?
The information you just said right now is new about Lennar or someone else. So with that in mind, in section 1.3.2, paragraph H, I'll call it, you mentioned Lennar specifically. Do we need to mention any other purchaser of that land?
Not at this point. I think this is between us, between our organization and Prior Lake Aggregates at this point. When Lennar signs the papers, or when another group signs the papers, then I think we might think about including that. Julie, did you have anything more to add on that? No.
Okay. Any other questions?
I mean, I think the positive obviously is it's non-binding and there's no money changing hands, and it's continuing to put us in a positive light, kind of mitigating all the risk that would be associated with having to purchase land at an afterthought type of basis. Right. So, I mean, I think I don't really see much of a downside as we're seeing the city growth in specific areas. So that makes sense.
And there are two big positives here. One is the termination agreement, which is very liberal, that either party, as of the end of this year, may terminate this at any point. And then the cost is tremendously less than what we paid for Red Tail Ridge. So.
And we know that it takes 3 years to build an elementary from the time you go out and ask the community, can we do this, to the time that you open those doors. So by having a property in mind, not paid for, but in mind, that gives us an advantage that most school districts would not have. So I think it really puts us in a positive light, and I agree with you, Ben.
It also helps the city develop sewer plans.
Exactly. The only work that's been done is to determine, is that a viable site for a school? That's the only work that has been done, and it has been determined that by our Nexus partners that and by their workers that it is.
And this has obviously been vetted out by our attorneys, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it has been vetted out by our attorneys for the last several months.
Yep.
Yes, back and forth.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve the letter of intent with Prior Lake Aggregates and ourselves? By Ben, second. By Todd. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next up is the approval of a bid award. Jim?
Good evening again. Before you, I have a request to approve a bid for Door Service Company for Twin Oaks doors and hardware replacement. On 3rd of March 2015, we had a bid opening for door and hardware Twin Oaks. We did receive one bid from Door Services Company in the amount of $394,824,000. There's a lot of doors in that building, and we are getting really good hardware and continuous hinges. So I am looking for approval for this project, which is, by the way, an A- project. So it's left over from
The A group?
projects. Yeah.
Okay. And this is all going to be done in July.
It'll be completed and billed before July 1.
Right. Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve the door and hardware bid for Twin Oaks?
So moved.
By Dan, second.
Second.
By Chad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Next up is the CIA Technology Restructure Proposal. Jeff.
All right. Good evening, Chair Ruel, members of the board, Dr. Groover. I'm here tonight to seek approval on a restructure and staffing proposal for curriculum instruction, assessment, and technology. We did discuss this a little bit at our last board session, so I'll be going through it again, but talking about several key areas. I'll talk a little bit about the needs analysis that was completed. We sent out several staff surveys, spoke with committees about looking ahead in the district, looking at curriculum and areas of technology. What are those needs? What are those next steps? This also has with it, that the iPads that are coming in and much of the essential conditions and the technology and looking at curriculum here for the next, as we move forward here in the near future and subsequently for 21st century learning in the school district. So we'll talk a little bit about that in this presentation, and then we'll get to the recommendation part, which is part restructure, and then also a recommendation for some additional staffing. The needs analysis really uncovered several different areas. One is increased professional development. With all the tools that we have in the district and looking at preparing staff to deliver the content and utilizing those conditions within their classroom to leverage for learning, staff are requesting more PD, more help, more support so that they feel comfortable using these and also so students have a quality experience. Second of all, in order to do that, increased staffing is needed. Two areas. One is for integration, looking at the academic standards and how to implement technology with the standards and looking at those 4 C's. But second of all, the tech support side. We have a lot of relatively new equipment, but equipment does break down. And so the second part of that is how to use it, using it with the standards, using it with our curriculum materials, but also if we have a problem and if there's a problem in the classroom, people need prompt response and they need more immediate response in order to get their classroom back up and running again. There was some discussion and feedback about curriculum review and adoption, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. But really that timely response from tech support is needed. We have a ticket system in place right now, which does help some. But essentially what we heard over and over again is that when there's a problem, it would be great to have somebody to call so that it could either be somebody could remote in to fix the problem or somebody could be deployed to the classroom and correct the problem immediately so that learning time is not down for as long as sometimes it can be. Second part of that is the help desk format. Just external and internal stakeholder groups do need assistance with technology and some of the programs that we're using. Other parts of the needs analysis, increased support for that curriculum design. In looking at the feedback over and over again, staff are not asking for new tools. They're not asking for more tools. They're not asking for different tools. They're asking for support on using the tools that we have with the essential conditions, which we've come forward with the board with our tech plan and shared with you and received approval on implementing. Staff need more support in order to use those tools effectively. And so with that, using tools is also using that to create content and use that for curriculum, use that for instruction. Shifting away from print materials takes time, but it also takes facilitation, it takes expertise, and it takes effort. And it's not necessarily a one-day thing, but it's something that needs to happen over time. The curriculum adoption is the second part. 7 years is just too long. We have several content areas that are beyond 7 years. But when you're looking at standards and you're looking at the student experience, shifting to a more continuous improvement model is the recommendation that I'm bringing forward tonight, where it's not you wait 7 years and then you all come back together again, but it's reflective of the data, the student experience, and what we're seeing in the classroom, and responding to the needs of the kids. Continuous improvement in the district is not a new concept. We've had a continuous improvement plan for our programs in the district. Our curriculum adoption has been more 7-year based, and it's usually been based on around resources and using resources to buy new content. 3 parts of the continuous improvement model. It's right now it's in a draft form, but we're taking the best of what we have with our current continuous improvement model, which works and which our staff finds successful. But then we're also adding and incorporating a few parts of an ongoing development, targeted study, and then intense program review. And those are all indicated by data. They're triggered by when staff are saying, you know, we have a problem with this particular content area or with this course, and our data is telling us we need to look at this a little bit closer. So with the needs analysis in mind and taking feedback from staff and taking feedback from administrators, we started wrapping that into our 21st century vision for learning for Prior Lake Savage Area schools. This was a vision that was drafted a little over a year ago by our professional development committee and technology group on, as we look at the classroom experience, this is what we want to have happen in our classrooms. This is something we're going to start getting out in front of staff again. More recently, we've been focused on devices and iPads, and we've had a lot of conversation about iPads. And it's important to have that conversation because deployment is a big part, and having the tools is a big part. But getting back to how we use those tools for learning is really where our vision lies, and that's what we're going to be working for and continue working on as a district. Incorporating SAMR, getting more, providing support to staff to have activities that are technically above this dotted line. And we do have many activities in the district that are happening that are above the line where we're in redefinition and modification of activities. We have eSTEM activities that are going on. At elementary and secondary, we have the Fab Lab, which is a classic example of that. We have other activities with math and science that are happening where students are getting these types of experience. So we want to continue to expand that. There are several organizations that are out there that we just need more time to utilize and tap into in order to give staff support. And ISTE is one, International Society for Technology and Education. They have resources and support for teachers, for administrators, for students, and then also for our peer coaches. And that's a nice fit with our QComp model and providing support to staff during the year. Common Sense Media is another one. Resources for staff, students, and parents about safety, about utilization. And those are things that we've barely scratched the surface of. So spending a little bit more time, bringing those sources forward to use as we develop our content. So the recommendation that I have for you this evening is a restructure in the curriculum side with the 1.0 elementary curriculum specialist, TOSA position, and a 1.0 secondary curriculum specialist position. These positions would replace our reading coordinator position and PD coordinator. Patty Green, who is our reading coordinator person, would be reassigned to our elementary curriculum specialist position. It's a great fit for her, certainly with reading and literacy being the center. That is a focal point of the elementary curriculum specialist position. On the secondary curriculum side, that's a position at this time that would be posted pending board approval of this restructure as we move forward to find a person with secondary background and expertise to work with secondary staff. Both of these positions would be supervised by our district curriculum coordinator, and their responsibilities would be facilitating and managing the curriculum review process, working with staff on facilitating staff development activities, and interdisciplinary collaboration. This restructure is considered cost neutral with the different positions that are being restructured and shifted into the elementary and secondary specialist positions. Another curriculum staffing recommendation, which would be a new position, is a 1.0 digital learning specialist. This is a position that would be posted, supervised by the curriculum coordinator, and it would be a 200-day contract. Essentially, the responsibilities of this person would be to lead and oversee a personalized learning initiative, focusing on instruction and the academic standards, but then leveraging and working with staff on how to use technology to accelerate learning, provide differentiated structures for students to learn. We know with the amount of technology we have, we need to start shifting away from print and textbook resources, and that is going to take time, and that's going to take leadership in the classroom, working with teachers to move the district forward. The biggest thing, again, is making sure that the content we develop and the staff that develop that content is ultimately aligned to the standards. And so that is why this is a curriculum recommendation. Even though it's a digital learning side, it's looking at the digital resource side and making sure that it matches the standards for students. This would be a new position seeking approval this evening. Continued, staff recognize on the more support side needing additional technology integration specialists, recommending 2 additional technology integrationists, so for a total of 4. Ben Tressel, who is our current professional development coordinator, would be reassigned to one of these positions, and then we would post for the other one. With 4 technology integration specialists, it would be assigned essentially by student count. We would have 1 person assigned at the high school, 1 integration specialist assigned between both middle schools, and the other 2 assigned to the elementaries. However, all 4 would collaborate together to provide support, plan activities together, and support each other in needs when they're working with staff. The other part of that is additional field tech support in the form of a help desk for people to call in, internal and external stakeholders, when they need additional assistance. So internally, if teachers are calling, they have the ability to either remote into the computer or to the environment to try to fix what they can. If they can't, they would be able to deploy somebody to that classroom to get that classroom back up and running as soon as possible. So this would be considered a 260-day position as a field tech help desk position. So in total, the total staffing recommendation I'm bringing forward to you this evening is listed there as a $350,000 addition, which would come out of the general fund.
Can I ask a question?
The organizational chart, just as a draft of what it would look like, is indicated here in your presentation for you. You know, the district curriculum coordinator, that is where a lot of the work this would be the team working with teachers on teaching and learning, working with curriculum review and adoption, working with technology, online content, and the development of those resources for kids.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
It's my understanding on the help desk technician that you were also talking about maybe having that open to parents.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. That's a great question. We have, you know, with Schoology, with Infinite Campus, with Skyward, we have a lot of different systems in the district right now. We have students who are going to be rolling out iPads, and our parents do have questions. And parents sometimes start with the classroom teacher, or they may start with the principal, or they may call me. What we're looking for is a person for our external stakeholders can call for support in getting their account set up, getting kids accessed into the system quickly. We have new students that register in the district, making sure that they receive an account and get access to these materials right away so that when they go into the classroom, all of that is in place. So that help desk person would be the key person in making sure that it provides assistance to parents, community, and then students coming into the district. Thank you. Good question.
Okay, Melissa, question.
With that help desk, we're going into the minis now, but what if we do the bring your own device? Would that include the help desk support there for those kids?
We certainly would have a help desk component for that. Sometimes too, when people bring their own devices in, we can certainly troubleshoot a lot of those devices. We have a PC platform as well as a Apple platform, so we're able to troubleshoot some of those. But sometimes when it gets beyond the initial troubleshooting, we might have to direct parents back to their original where they purchased the device. But certainly we would provide support to them as well.
Okay, Ben.
So 2 questions. One, you'd mentioned a couple of positions that were going away in lieu of other positions. I think in the past we talked about essentially remaining not only headcount neutral, but personnel neutral, so those 2 people would be reassigned to
Yes.
the new positions. Is that still the case?
That is still the case,
Okay, so
yes.
no one's getting let go or anything
Nope.
like that. And the second question is then for the total staffing recommendation of the $350,000, where is that in relationship to what was budgeted for these positions?
So for the curriculum, as far as the proposal coming forward or in general?
More in general. I mean, just I think what did we set aside for these positions versus what we?
Back in November, we had started, when we were meeting about the iPads, we started projecting what would we be budgeting, rolling out these devices, but then also looking at what we knew with the desktop computers that we have, the labs, the smart boards, the Chromebooks, and looking at really where do we need staffing, and what does that staffing look like? And we were at about the $325,000 to $350,000 projection for coming forward with this. So we're within that budget right now as I make this presentation to you tonight.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Rich?
A follow-up on Sue Ann's question about the field technician.
Yes.
Do you envision parent-friendly hours in addition to regular school hours?
It's a great question. We hadn't really thought of it that way. But certainly that would be something we would look at.
As a parent who's had to help late at night, that might be an opportunity there.
With some of our staff right now, we have split where we have staff that come in early. We have tech staff that come in as early as 6 or 6:30 in the morning, and some that stay until 5, 5:30 at night. So, but sometimes parent-friendly hours might be a little longer than that. So, we certainly would be looking at that.
Oh,
Any other questions? I'll just make a couple comments. From what I've heard from, teachers, I like that it addresses, I know at times they feel overwhelmed with some of the initiatives and having time to do this. And I think focusing on this technology piece and making sure that we're using the resources that we're giving them to the best of their abilities and help enhance that is really important. The other thing, I think the support to parents as well, I think that's something I've heard as well, is that, they're getting thrown in with a lot of this technology stuff and they're having some gaps there. And a lot of times, as most things, my child can do it better than I can, but there are times that I need help. So I think it's really important that we address the public with that as well. So, any other questions? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the technology restructure proposal?
So moved.
By Melissa, second.
I'll second the motion.
By Rich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
Thank you.
And I think you're next up, right? With the revised
I do.
calendar.
We're bringing back the 2015-16 school calendar. We had one minor revision to it. We had to tweak one of the days, and so October 14th would be a non-student day and a non-staff day. So in essence, we need board approval for this revised calendar. And the impact to the calendar is one less student contact day, one less staff day, because it brings it within the contractual means. And it's the same number of days as what we have this year. So we're not losing any days compared to this year relative as we look to next year. And it's 1 day longer MEA break.
Nice. Okay. Sorry, I put in my. And I know we talked about this at meeting.
Yes.
And since so many people look at this and we spend so much time on the calendar, we seem to have blamed it on leap year. On this, isn't this leap year? Okay. So we do have February 29th on the calendar as a school day. So is there any questions on this? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the revised calendar for 2015-16?
So moved.
By Dan, second.
Second.
By Todd. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the Superintendent Search Advisory Committee. Listed before you in your board packet is a group that we've kind of put together to lead us down for the search for the next superintendent for our district. And I'll just say, I had a big part in putting it together. It's a collection of administrators, teachers, principals, and parents and community leaders. I'll say I looked at the last time we went through this 7 years ago. It's close to the same size. It's a little bit larger, but not much. But I think it is a good collective voice to help us pick our next leader. So unless anyone has any questions, I'll be looking for approval on the list.
So moved.
All right. Motion by Todd, second.
I will second the motion.
By Rich. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. And lastly here is our review, our mid-year review of our school board goals that were set last September. Is that right? August?
August.
Okay. And this is the time where we kind of go through, see how we're doing, where we're at. We had some discussion on the board study session a couple weeks ago and put in some additions, as you can see listed there. And so if anyone has any questions or comments on that, or I know we had a little spelling error that we caught, so that'll get fixed. But other than that, if there's no questions, I think we'll look to, am I approving this? Yes. No. Am I approving this, Martha? Okay, sorry. Thank you. I'd look to approve the revised goals.
So moved.
By Chad, second.
Second.
By Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next up is policy. First read.
First read, we have several policies tonight for first read. The first one is 514.1, chemical use and abuse. And we just included on this, and part of this actually came from one of our new policy committee members, Melissa Anger, who talked about where we including and making sure that we're including synthetic tobacco use, which we hadn't previously put in here, but we have added it to this particular policy, trying to keep up with the different terms that are being used and the different products that are being exhibited. So we put that into Roman numeral 3A to include synthetic tobacco. And then on the last page of this policy, we revised the sentence having to do with the Minnesota Student Survey results. When they were first brought forward, we had committees that reviewed them and communities came together around the Minnesota Student Survey. At this point in time, since we've had it for several years, we're recommending that it be the Minnesota Student Survey results will be reviewed and shared with school board and community. That reflects really what we are doing currently. So those are the only additions. This is a first read on this policy.
So this is the first read. We'll have a second read next time. So if anyone has any comments or suggestions, you can talk to either one of us.
Can I ask a question right now?
Surely.
The use of synthetic, is that to include vaping?
I think that was the intention, yes.
Because those are, from my understanding, those are different deals.
Is that according to Wikipedia, or what is that?
No.
Sorry.
So, I guess I would just prefer.
Yeah, we'll look up the definition
vaping because that's e-cigarettes.
How about nicotine-containing substances?
Yeah.
We considered that, but then there's a school of thought that it doesn't contain nicotine.
What if we just add a
Out there.
language that directed it somehow around these type of devices or products? You know, essentially it would minimize the having to update it and or have a loophole where someone would say, well, this wasn't specifically called out in your policy,
Right.
so therefore I'm not suspended.
Well, I think what we can do on this one is we'll review it again and probably send it to people that have to deal with it more often to find out what kind of wording is best. Mr. Lund?
Maybe if I know the people to send it to.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I got contacts that I can get it to get.
Okay. And so we'll bring that back on the
Want to
next
use
one.
the right language
Yeah.
so that we don't have the problem.
Right. Okay, next up is
Yes.
FAAN.
The next one up is really the Food Allergy and Anaphylaxis Network, or FAAN, F-A-A-N, school guidelines for dealing with students with food allergies. And our new food service director, Janine Peterson, reviewed this with Cindy Isaacson, our head nurse, and believe that we need to change words under food service responsibility on the third page. And we've changed the wording, taking out allergens and substituting that with students with special diet needs wishing to purchase a la carte items must work with their food service manager to check food labels before purchasing.
And this is practice now.
This is current practice now. Our families are very proactive when students have significant allergies, that they do work with the school food service manager to determine what is in products and what their students can have and can't have. So this really reflects best practice in what we're doing currently.
Okay. And then, any questions on that? Okay. Policy 904.
904 is the distribution of information on school district property by non-school persons and employees. And we were revisiting this particular policy due to the use of our new electronics signboard that's on Twin Oaks Middle School. So under general statement of policy, you can see that the signboard is put in there. And then we, on the second page, are the guidelines and the procedures page that we've added the use of the signage. And then on the last page of this particular policy is a actual submission form or electronic message request form. And we met with Gina Fern and Christy Mussman, joined us for this conversation and the research that went into this particular change.
Okay. All right. So if you guys reread these and have any questions or any comments, just feel free to contact us between now and the next meeting. Okay. Administrative reports. Sue-Ann.
Yes. We have great news on our graduation rates. We were just released by the Minnesota Department of Education last week. This year, 2014, 94% of our high school seniors graduated from Prairie Lake High School. This is up from 89%, a 5% increase. That of students graduating after 4 years. They also did a 5-year and a 6-year, but 94% of our high school seniors are graduating in 4 years, which is a great statistic to celebrate. This exceeds our statewide average, which is 79%, and is the highest we've achieved in the last decade. So that's really great news. Then we did, Dave Brown did some analysis of our Bridges graduation rate. This is our alternative learning center where time is a factor. Getting those credits in on time is really a challenge for many of our students that go to Bridges. It isn't undoable. It's a matter of taking the time lid off and letting them have the time they need to be able to be successful and receive their 4-year high school diploma. The graduation rate for Bridges is at 51%. This represents just the 4-year, but when you think about it in terms of the majority of our Bridges students do earn degrees. It just takes them 4.5 or 5 years usually in order to get that done. So we're really having great success at Bridges as well as at Prior Lake High School. So both are scores to celebrate and know that we're working and doing the right work to prepare our students for the workforce and for post-secondary schooling. In addition to our food service survey that's going to be happening, we're working with Morris Leatherman Group to develop our every other year questionnaire that we're surveyed that we send out. That is a phone survey that's randomly selects people in our community. We'll be gauging the general satisfaction levels our community has with our schools and our district, and also asking questions around our continued growth and facility needs. So that will certainly be in there as we move forward. But coming out will be things like, do you support having immersion? Because we have one. We've been able to put that into place after seeing the results of the last survey and the really resounding support our community has for having an immersion opportunity at the kindergarten level. We were able to put that in place this year. So we've been able to remove some pieces that we've been able to achieve over the last 2 years and replace them with other questions. So we're working on putting that survey together now and hope to have it out this spring. Each year we have some simulated crisis response trainings. We have 2 set up for this spring. The first one will involve just principals and DSC administrators with our liaison officers. And this exercise will focus on our communications and how our district and local law enforcement work together in a crisis. The second meeting will be held in May, and this is our annual community crisis response team. This involves all of our administrators and the large emergency personnel in the county, as well as police, fire, and ambulance. So we will fill this room and then do tabletop exercises where we're working in cross community expertise areas and come up with new ways and better ways to make sure we're ready to respond in a crisis. So it's really helpful to do this and to make sure that we're staying current with best practice. The first one is going to actually happen tomorrow. The shorter one that we're just going to be doing, the one with our communications between ourselves and our law enforcement. The others will be held in May. So that's also happening. And then just this afternoon, we had a large contingency of Burnsville administrators come to Prior Lake High School for a visit. Jeff Holmberg and Dave Lund were there to meet them and take them on a tour. Burnsville has just passed their bond and levy and are looking to change the format of their learning spaces at their high school. So they were most interested in seeing what we're doing. So Jeff and Dave, do you want to speak to that?
Certainly, we had 12 individuals from Burnsville show up, and there were, as you pointed out, 2 parts to the visit. They wanted to look at the new addition. They're certainly looking at collaborative space. They looked at the design. They looked at the science rooms and how they were designed and oriented, and the furniture and how flexible they were. And then we spent some time in the Fab Lab, just looking at the concept of the business and engineering and kids creating a concept. And then the third part of it was just sitting down, having a dialogue about what were our key learnings as we went through the process on the addition side, but then also with the Fab Lab. They're certainly looking at doing some different types of programming, and they really liked what they saw today at the high school. And I know Mr. Lund could probably say a few other words too.
They had everybody from program coordinators, teachers there. Running the first on the science rooms, I'd gotten a call. They originally were coming just to look at the Fab Labs, and I got a call from Dave Helke, their principal, and said, did you build separate physics rooms? And I said, we didn't build separate physics rooms. We built science rooms to encompass any science class we want to teach in there, or if need be, any other class. So they were interested in coming and looking at it. I think was a science teacher. So he was really interested in, and we got to go in there while there were students in there, in a physics class, and a chemistry, both physics, no, one was chemistry, one physics, so they really got to see those, they liked the tables, the video space, and then it's hard to get them out of the new edition as they were snooping in the other classrooms and looking at the furniture, and they said their pods, they won't have quite the makeup, but they're trying to envision how they can use that collaborative space, and down in the fabrication laboratory, just all the questions about how's the curriculum align in, how many students do you have in it? What's your female contingency of students in the Fab Lab classes? We talked a lot about students and teachers learning together. And it wasn't just students collaborating with students, it was teachers and students collaborating. And also they really enjoyed the business aspect of it, that it's not just done in isolation, that there's a whole entrepreneurial aim to it that they were very interested in. And talking to Dave Helke when he left, he's their high school principal. They moved through that, what, $50,000 bond. There are three different editions.
Do I have? That's what you have, okay.
50 million, yes.
Yeah.
50,000.
So it's not going to go far. Yeah. Any other administrative reports? Julie? Oh, Jeff, sorry.
Just on the visiting concept, this morning we had a contingency also from Duluth Public Schools down at La Ola del Lago. They're looking at immersion programs, and I know Mr. Kuczynski spent the morning meeting with their assistant superintendent. I was over there. They had a board member down, principal, and curriculum, just talking about what our process was, what were our key learnings and findings. So just on that visiting, we had a lot of visitors today around the district. So.
And I just wanted to update you a little bit on our kindergarten classes. We're up to 476 kindergarten students enrolled in the district right now. That's a few students ahead of where we were last year. And I also, if you've been watching the news at all, at the last board work session, I updated you about their pre-K. As you know, with the additional surplus dollars, Governor Dayton has come out with full funding proposal for pre-K students, 4-year-olds attending all day at the schools or any other licensed center. So I just wanted you to be aware that that is moving forward, and that we need to at least be aware of what's happening with that. There is funding, if he's looking at funding for full day pre-K, fully funded now, whereas before it was only partially funded. And remember that it was a 20-to-1, a 20 student maximum with a 10-to-1 ratio. So there'd always be a teacher and a pair in the classroom. But there isn't any funding out there for the space for that. So I wanted you to, just to give you a quick little update on that.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other board reports?
I have one. We went down to I went down to the legislature with Sue-Ann, Julie, and Jeff, and to follow up on Julie's point, the proposal does not include transportation funding either for that 4th day. So we met with our representatives to talk about that issue and also discuss the help we're going to need as a district on alternative facilities, and express our desire for put additional money onto the formula to stay up with inflation. So.
Great. Any other board reports? Okay. Future events. Next up, March 16th to the 20th, spring break. March 26th, we have recommendations to the board for the first round of interviews for the next superintendent. The board's going to meet with Ken LaCroix at 6, and the advisory committee will meet at 7. March 28th, we have the festival at the Oaks Band Invitational at Twin Oaks. And then March 30th is our next school board study session at 6. Seeing the end, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Chad. Second.
Second.
By Melissa. I guess all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 7-0. Thank you and good night.